Friends, I am Dr. Kuldeep Mohadikar. In this video, I will be presenting my ninth chapter from my series, Chapters from the History of English Literature. The title of this ninth chapter is Restoration Comedy of Manners and Restoration Drama. The comedy of manners developed during the age of Dryden or the Restoration period was considerably influenced by the continental writers and especially by the French dramatist Molière and the Spanish dramatist Clandestin. Molière provided the English dramatist with ideas for plot and comic characterization. The Spanish drama strengthened the love of intrigue and incidents which had woven in the texture of English comedy. The Restoration comedy was modeled on the realistic comedy of Ben Jonson and his followers in England and Molière in France. The attitude of Restoration age towards drama was fundamentally frivolous. Shakespeare was too rich for this new age and he had too much poetry and complexity. There were many social and political factors that gave rise to what is known as Restoration comedy. The era of imagination illumined by Shakespeare, Jonson, and Marlowe was over, completely finished. The era of reason had dawned, which guided the action in every walk of life. The drama reflected the thought current in the period. The playwrights of the age concerned themselves with the polished personalities of men and women and their manners. That is why it is called Restoration Comedy of Manners or Artificial Comedy. The Restoration comedy is realistic in the sense that it focuses our attention on the life, manners, ways, love intrigues, and foppery of the upper age or upper caste society. The Restoration comedy concentrated on the activities, intrigues, and amorous achievements of gay, frivolous, and rakish type of young men and women. The scenes of the comedy were generally laid in London, particularly cafes, chocolate houses, clubs, and gambling centers. Love intrigues were carried on clandestine manner. The comedies of the Restoration period were devoted themselves specially to picturing the external details of life, the fashions of time, its manners, its speech, and its interest. This was the kind of life led by Restoration aristocratic classes, and it is this life which is presented in the comedy of manners. The Restoration comedy has characters coming from fashionable aristocratic society. The plot revolves around love intrigues clothed in clever dialogues. The plots were mostly borrowed from French literature. The comedy presented public reactions against Puritanism. They were antisocial in the sense that they ridiculed established social institutions. Particularly, the institution of marriage is highly ridiculed. The comedy of manners has been criticized for its licentiousness, immorality, defended it by saying, I quote, Restoration comedy expresses not licentiousness but a deep curiosity and a desire to try a new way of life. I unquote. The life represented in the Restoration comedy is based on sex antagonism. The common convention and the marriage is bare and love is primarily or exclusively a physical appetite is traced through these comedies. In the Restoration comedy, women are audacious and flippant. Any talk of male domination is resented. There is full picture of bargaining in matrimony. Regarding the technical side of the comedy of manners, we find weak plots and stock in trade characters. The best period of Restoration drama was brief. The plays that followed, Congreve and Etheridge, were imbued with moral intentions and therefore they were dull, unlifelike, and insincere. The first true practitioner of comedy of manners was Etheridge, George Etheridge, whose important works include Love in a Tub, She Would If She Could, and The Man of Mode. Etheridge lacks the brilliance and polish of Congreve, but he has a naturalness and airy grace of his own. Another practitioner of comedy of manners was Wycherley, whose reputation is based upon his four plays: Love in a Wood, The Gentleman Dancing Master, Country Wife, and The Plain Dealer. He lacks the airy wit of Etheridge, but in plot construction he is much ahead of him. William Congreve is the supreme master of the comedy of manners. His first play is Old Bachelor, which is a perfect piece of comic portraiture of a young man. The next play of Congreve was The Double Dealer. Much of his wit and irony is presented in this play. The dialogues are witty and sparkling. His next play, Love for Love, is purely comic. Congreve's last comedy is The Way of the World, that has been acknowledged as the best English comedy because of its artistic excellence and flashes of brilliant sparkling dialogues, witticism and intellectualism. Farquhar wrote some 7 plays, the most outstanding of which are Farquhar's The Recruiting Officer and The Bew's Stratagem. He is much less witty and polished than Congreve. Vanbrugh is known chiefly for his comedies The Relapse, The Provoked Wife, and The Confederacy. All of them are concerned with unhappy marriages. Vanbrugh lacks the wit and elegance of Congreve, but his plots are better constructed. In general, there are certain characteristics of the comedy of manners. The comic figures in the Restoration comedy became funny because they made pretension to be as fashionable, well-mannered and gallant as the noble men. Jealousy was a hideous or horrible, frightful, ugly crime in the comedy of manners. A jealous husband was perhaps the most mocked person in the Restoration comedy. There was a new type of courtship, making love, wooing of woman by a man, where the romance was in the chase, to run after, and not in the culmination of marriage. The people never allowed their pleasures to be spoiled with the dreary business of marriage. The coquettish, we can say, attracting, enticing, pretty heroines loved to be chased by the gallants and enjoyed scandals. The amorous old women were another stock character in the Restoration comedy. In The Way of the World, Lady Touchwood pursued her husband's nephew, and Lady Wishford would have liked to love her niece's lover. Thus, Restoration comedy is full of immoral things. Thank you, friends, for listening my 9th chapter, which was based on Restoration comedy and Restoration drama and or Restoration comedy of manners, we can say. So thanks, friends, for again listening this video and responding very nice to all my videos based on the chapters from the history of English literature. Thanks, friends.